Then today we're going to start from the back, from page 35. The mitzvahs of Purim. Let's talk about the mitzvahs. And we will talk about more. We'll get into more into the story of Purim. And as we say every week, this class is in memory of Jared Orchan. And today we'll speak about Purim. The mitzvahs of Purim. What are the mitzvahs of Purim? And let's read the first mitzvah.
Megillah. To relive the miraculous events of Purim, we listen to the reading of the Megillah, the scroll of Esther, on Purim Eve and again on Purim Day.
The first mitzvah is to listen to the Megillah. By reading the Megillah at home, you are not fulfilling the obligation. The obligation is to come to synagogue and to hear somebody reading the Megillah from a real scroll. Listening to the radio, or on the line, somebody reads the Megillah, also you don't fulfill the mitzvah. It has to be a physical person in a physical room who reads the Megillah from the book. That's number one. You read the Megillah twice at night. That means this year it will be Saturday night, and the second time during the day. Okay.
Whenever Haman's name is mentioned with a title, according to Chabad custom, we stamp our feet and twirl gregors to drown out his evil name.
Then what we do is we erase his name, right? With the gregors. That's the big Jewish tradition. We'll talk later about this tradition, but it's an old tradition. It's a little warm, man. Are you warm? No, just reduce it a few points.
I think if there was somebody selling extra strength Tylenol before this happened, they'd make a lot of money, and for the adults at least.
Yeah, but that's such a big part of tradition. Even some adults complain, then that brings life to Judaism. Everything is hands-on in Judaism. You erase Haman's name with your hand, and you don't just believe in it. Then the first mitzvah of Purim is reading the Megillah. The second mitzvah?
Gifts of food. On Purim, we emphasize the importance of Jewish unity and friendship by sending gifts of food to friends. Send a gift of at least two kinds of ready-to-eat foods, for example, pastry, fruit, beverage, to at least one friend on Purim day. It is proper that men send to men and women to women, or we'll put in parentheses, families to families. Sending these gifts should be done through a third party. Children, in addition to sending their own gifts of food, make enthusiastic messengers. Okay, then the second mitzvah is shalach monas.
Really the word is mishloach manot. It became a shortened to shalach monas. It's sending two types of food to a friend. This is not to poor people, not to needy, to friends, to rich friends. Sending food as an expression of brotherhood and love and unity.
So, question: where did the two types of food come from in the story that mitzvah comes from? I mean, I understand
because
the friendship.
Because the plural manot. Manot is plural. A portion of food. Sending portions in the Megillah. That's how it's written in the Megillah. As we're going to read it, it will actually go into the Megillah, and we'll see where in the Megillah it's written that you have to send shalach monas. Okay. Page 29, number 19, verse 19.
Thus the Prazi Jews, those who lived in unwalled cities, made the 14th day of the month of Adar a holiday, a day of feasting, rejoicing, and sending portions of food to one another.
Okay, that sending portions of food. That portions of food is more than one. That's why we know it's more than one.
Okay.
Then we send portions of food to one another. That's written straight in the Megillah. What the other thing it's written in the Megillah? We make a feasting. It's a fasting. It's a feast. You have to make a seudah, a meal, a Purim meal. That's another mitzvah that's written in the Megillah. Now this thing is written again. If you go on page 30, number 22, actually continue in the text.
Now Mordechai recorded these events and sent letters to all the Jews living throughout the provinces of King Ahasuerus, near and far, instructing them to obligate themselves to celebrate annually the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar, like the days upon which Jews were relieved of their enemies, and the month which had been transformed for them from one of sorrow to joy, from mourning to festivity, to make them days of feasting, rejoicing, sending food portions one to another, and giving gifts to the poor.
Oh, here it comes to an extra mitzvah. First, before it was only feasting, there is another two mitzvahs, as we know. Having a meal at the end of the day, Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon, and another mitzvah, giving gift to the poor. Then here he mentions again the feasting, the shalachmones, to send portions, and he adds a new thing, giving gift to the poor. Then what's the difference between charity and giving gift to the poor? Is this the same mitzvah? We do it every day. What do you got all so excited about it? Let's go back to page 35. We'll see how they describe the mitzvah. Give to the needy. Go ahead.
Concern for the needy is a year-round responsibility for the Jew. On Purim particularly, it is a special mitzvah to remember the poor. Give charity at least to, but preferably more, needy individuals on Purim Day.
Okay, then you have to give to the charity to at least 2 poor people. And he says here, right here, giving the charity is a mitzvah year around, right? Then what do you get excited? What changed on Purim? Okay, you make a bigger effort, you give more, fine. But think about it. Let's hear it from the Rebbe. We don't call it giving charity to the poor, we call it giving gift to the poor. What's the difference between charity to the poor and gift to the poor?
Charity based on need.
And gift? That's an interesting thought. But the poor has to be halachically he has to be poor. That if he's a poor person, he's in need. Then what would be the same needy person? Yesterday I gave him charity, today I'm giving him a gift. What's the difference? To who you give charity and to who you give a gift? Think about it.
You can give a gift to just about anybody.
Hey, don't give it to anybody. Who you give a gift to?
Well, no. I mean, irrespective of whether they're poor or rich.
You're right, but who is the people that you want to give a gift to?
The needy.
You want to, when you give a gift, not charity, you give a gift. Who you give a gift?
Friends, usually.
Your loved
Relatives,
ones.
friends,
Your loved
yeah.
ones. You give your wife a gift, right?
Oh, okay.
You give your friends a gift. You give somebody that makes you happy, that you want to make him happy. Somebody that did so much for you, you want to show him your appreciation, and how much you appreciate, you want to give him a gift. What you did for me, here is a gift for everything that you did for me. You give your wife a gift and you tell her, this is what I do, I want to show you my appreciation, right? Giving gift to the poor elevates the poor. I don't give them charity. I give them gifts. And Purim, we consider the poor like on my own level. We are all the same. I give you because I love you, because I care for you, because I want to make you happy, because you make me happy, because I appreciate, because I value your friendship. That's why I give you a gift. Not because I have Rahmanas on you, you're such a Rahmanas case, I'll give you some charity. Matanot la'evyonim, not tzedakah. Matanot means gift. Gift to the poor. And Purim, we don't have poor people, we give them charity. When you give a gift, charity, you give only what you want. You give a gift. You try to buy a nice gift, and even a nicer gift, and you try to make it, and you rub this up nicely, and you bring it with a smiley face, and it's an honor for you to give the gift. You're not doing favors here. And then we have the next mitzvah. Okay, go ahead.
The festival meal. As on all festivals, we celebrate Purim with a special festive meal on Purim Day, when family and friends gather together to rejoice in the Purim spirit.
Okay, this mitzvah is being done on Sunday evening. That's the time for the mitzvah. The last mitzvah in the 4 mitzvahs. Megillah starts at night, and the other mitzvahs are during the day. Shalach Mones you cannot do the night before. and the charity, the gift for the needy has to be matanot la'avyonim. It also has to be Sunday day during the day, and the meal has to be by the end of the day. Interesting enough, every other holiday, when you do the main meal,
So at night,
Eve,
evening.
Rosh Hashanah Eve, right? Before the beginning of the holiday. Here we do it by the end of the holiday. Soon we'll get to why we need to do it by the end of the holiday. What do you think? Why we don't do it in the beginning of the holiday? Wouldn't it be nice Saturday night, we'll sit down, we'll have a big meal, we'll celebrate. Why be the end of the holiday?
It's the end of the holiday, and it's
But usually by Jewish people, every holiday we do it before, not by the end. Pesach, Shavuos, you name it. There is no Jewish holiday that the Friday, the eve is not the main meal. Here
What
we
about-
wait a whole day, a whole thing. You go ahead.
Yom Kippur
Yom
We
Kippur,
have a meal
we don't
after.
eat. There is no meal
after,
after because you break the fast.
right?
There is a meal before too. So that's not sekes.
Yeah.
The meal before. Many people think that's the middle of Yom Kippur. They make Kiddush. It's not the time to make Kiddush. It's before Yom Kippur. But why why is Purim different? What is in the meal of Purim different than any other meal? What are you supposed to do on Purim that we don't supposed to do in other meal?
It's the end of a celebration.
What are you supposed to do in the meal?
Eat humantash.
That's nice. What are you supposed to do in this meal that we don't do in any other meal? Something that you're supposed to do in this meal that you don't do in any other meal. You know it.
Is it all the drinking?
The drinking, yes.
You get drunk.
Ah. And because you're supposed to do the drinking, and you might forget what's going on with you, and it'll be too late to do the other mitzvahs. Therefore, we say, first of all, you're the Megillah. Once, then twice, then you do Shalach Mones, then you give money to the gift, and you fulfill the mitzvah, then you can go and celebrate.
To what degree is drinking a mitzvah?
Oh, and we're going to speak about it. There is a mitzvah to drink on Purim. Where is the mitzvah written? Where is it written?
In the Megillah, you're supposed to.
That you're supposed to drink.
You don't know the difference between.
Where is it written?
It's
Between
in,
all-
it's in the Megillah, isn't it?
No. In the Megillah it's written that Haman is cursed and Mordechai is blessed. Even this is not written. It's in the prayer after the Megillah.
It's implied because the whole thing is a hidden miracle.
Okay, where is written the mitzvah, the law that a person has to drink, to be drunk on Purim? It's written in the Talmud. There is a tractate of the Talmud that's called Megillah. All the laws of Purim and the Megillah is a special tractate in Talmud. In the tractate Megillah it's written, Chayev Odom lebesume befuria. A person is supposed to get drunk on Purim until the point that he will not know between who is blessed and who is cursed. Usually, Haman is cursed and Mordechai is blessed. We say it in the prayer. Then we say after the reading of the Megillah, you'll see it. Let's go to page 32 and read the paragraph, the first paragraph of page 32. That's a prayer that we say after the congregation says after the reading of the Megillah.
The rose of Jacob, thrilled with joy and exulted when they beheld Mordecai, garbed in royal blue. You have always been their salvation, their hope in every generation, to make known that all who place their hope in you shall not be put to shame, nor shall all those who trust in you be disgraced forever. Cursed be Haman, who sought to destroy me. Blessed be Mordecai the Jew. Cursed be Zeresh, the wife of Haman, who terrified me. Blessed be Esther, who interceded on my behalf. Cursed be all the wicked, blessed be all the righteous, and may
Chavona.
also be remembered favorably.
That here we go, whole business. Blessed be Mordechai, cursed be Haman, blessed be Mordechai, cursed be Zeresh, blessed be Esther. That if you're drunk, you have to be able to confuse it. who is blessed, who is cursed, you don't know what's going on. Then that's a Talmudic statement that a person has to be drunk. The question is, first of all, this is the mitzvah that's unique for Purim. Charity, as we said, we give it all the year. Shalachmones, giving food to friends, also nothing special about Purim. Reading the Megillah, every holiday you read the story of the holiday. Then in Pesach you read a story from the Bible about the Exodus. And Shavuos you read about the giving of the Torah. And Sukkot you read about Sukkot. And Purim you read about Purim. That's normal. All the other mitzvahs of Purim, it's hard to say that they are part of a general mitzvah of love your fellow like yourself. If you love your fellow, you'll send him shalach mones. You love your fellow, you'll have... And having a meal, every holiday we have a meal. The Jews are busy with meals 24/7. What's unique? What is the mitzvah? What's the custom, the law that's unique about Purim? Is saying l'chaim, drinking. More than any other thing, what describes Purim, what makes Purim unique for them more than any other holiday. Now let's think about it. How is Judaism looks on drinking? Favorable or not?
No.
Both. I mean, 'cause
Moderation.
we obviously.
Okay, let's start.
It depends.
Let's start. Jewish people, when they want to know if something is right or wrong, they look in the Bible first of all, right? What's the Bible? Who is the first one that had a
Noah.
drinking issue?
No.
Noah vinegar drink when he got drunk.
Planted a vineyard.
When he came out after the
after
flood.
flood.
Before the flood, he's named Ish Tzaddik, a righteous man. After the flood, what his name is? How they call him in the Bible?
Mud.
Ish Adamah, the man of earth. Not mud, but earth. They say it's going to come out a movie about Noah soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then I hope they will point it out. Then Noah, because of his drinking, lost it. He lost his spiritual status. He was a man, a righteous man, a man that walked with God, a man that God told him about safe from the flood, and after the flood he got drunk. Look what happened to him. Then, not a good story. Who is next in the Bible with a problem with drinking?
We see Melchizedek with wine and.
No problem.
But there's no
Esau.
problem there.
Esau, where is Esau drinking?
But he's raping and pillaging, and he's doing a lot.
First of all, it's not written in the Bible. It's a medrash, as the Talmud says it. Number two, he was not drunk. He was very normal, actually. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Did they get the Shechemites drunk?
Ooh.
Oh, it's with when the Moabite women come to seduce the Jews in the desert. No, because they get drunk and they're no. Okay.
Guys, you know it.
Give us a hint.
You know it. You know it so well that one hint you will know it before that.
Who's the one who goes to the synagogue?
Who?
The woman who goes to the synagogue and they would...
That's another story. We'll get to it, but that's much later.
Then she wasn't drunk.
No,
We'll get to it
but
much
she was
later.
accused of
But
it.
you're right. But before that, right in the Bible, right in the beginning.
Oh, in the beginning.
In the beginning, guys.
Oh, Adam and Eve. They drink.
Adam and Eve was drinking when he was saying l'chaim. That's nothing wrong with that. They were making kiddush, and it's not even written in the text itself.
Okay.
Nothing bad. Tell me, what happened to Lot?
Oh, he got drunk and his daughters took
How
it.
his
That's
daughters,
right,
his
that's
daughters
right,
said they had children for men.
That's right.
They gave him to
The
drink,
Moabites.
right? When you said the Moabite, I thought you were going there.
Yeah.
They gave him to drink once, and then again. And he drank the second night, even when he knew what happened the first night.
The Moabites and the Ammonites.
Right?
That's right.
We needed the nations. The root came out from it, very nice. But the bottom line, it came out from drinking. And the Talmud says that was a miracle that they found a bottle of wine in the. How they found a bottle of wine inside the cave? It's a miracle. That means God wanted it. The bottom line is, Lot was drunk, and look where it took him, right? Then there is another story in the 5 books of Moses about drinking. And you all know it.
beginning of the trip or the end of the trip?
During
Give us
the
a
trip.
hint.
During the trip.
It's when they made it to Vegas, part of the 40 years. Yeah.
It's a beginning, kind of. A beginning of something.
The golden calf?
No, but not too far from it. After the golden calf. The golden calf, they were making the golden calf, then they were drinking and again think fun. You know it. You all know it.
Boy, Jewish trivia, I'm telling you.
We're failing.
We must have had too many drinks to remember.
I like that.
In the 5 books of Moses, in the book of Leviticus.
Oh, it's Aaron's sons.
Aaron's son.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Aaron's son entered the temple and offered incense. They were not allowed. And then they died. And right after this story comes the story that God says, tell the children of Aaron they're not allowed to enter drunk to the temple. That the rabbi said, why it's written right here? Because that was the problem. They entered the temple intoxicated. They said a few times. Well, no matter how you slice it, that's what the Talmud says. And that's what it is. And you're not, from here, in the Torah says you're not allowed to enter the temple when you're drunk. That so far we have 3 stories in the Bible. The drinking was not good, didn't end up good. Not by Noah, not by Lot, and not by the sons of Aaron. And then what you mentioned from the prophets. The prophets were, which prophet was it? Who was the story that you mentioned? Who was it?
Samuel. It's about Samuel.
The mother of Samuel, Hannah, came to the temple. That's the Haftorah that we read on Rosh Hashanah. She came and she prayed. And Eli, the high priest, was sitting there and he says, he thought she's drunk. And he says, for how long you going to be drunk in the temple? It was like an insult to the temple. And she told him, your servant, your servant is not drunk. I'm pouring out my heart to God. That you see in this story too, that being drunk was looked down. Not something that Judaism prefer. And even one more story in the prophet. Who else they told them not to drink?
Those are right.
Who?
Samson.
Samson, before Samson was born, his mother saw an angel, right? The angel came to his mother and his father and told them, you're going to have a child, that the child will be born, and you should dedicate him as a Nazirite, and you shouldn't drink wine. Told them that a few times. And because if you'll drink wine, he will go astray. That you see from the whole Bible, drinking wine is not favorable. No question how you, no matter how you look at it. Doesn't look good.
Doesn't Psalm 104, though, talk about joy from drinking wine?
I think I know which Psalm 104 is by heart. Tell me what it's written there. What's the speaking about?
Well, that's I thought that was the you shall
Dalet.
experience joy. I can't remember exactly. But
Oh, could you talking about Bochi Nafshi?
take your word for it.
What's a long psalm you talking about? No, Bochi Nafshi is a little further.
We can find out pretty quickly.
Psalm 104. Okay, what's written there? That wine gladdens the person's
Gladdens the
heart.
heart,
That's what
yeah.
you that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
I
talking
think that's the
about.
line, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the Siddur. Okay, then we didn't say it doesn't gladden, but it doesn't mean you have to drink it. Wine gladdens person's heart. Yeah, Bochi Nafshi. I was right. Yeah. It's in the Siddur actually. You have yain yesamach levavenish, and wine that gladdens men's heart. Yeah. So we know that wine gladdens person's heart.
That's
Makes me a little
good.
too glad.
It's in moderation, in the correct.
Then we have in Halacha, what's the Jewish law says? Jewish law says if a person drinks a revi'it wine, how much is a revi'it? No, for
So
Kiddush.
isn't it like an olive side or no?
5 ounces or 3 ounces
Right,
or 4
okay.
ounces, something like this. You drink this amount of wine before he prays, before the service. You have to wait until the wine goes away. I don't remember exactly how much the time you have to wait. 18 minutes or something like this before you can start praying. is not allowed to pray intoxicated. Just as you're not allowed to enter the temple intoxicated,
Isn't there also?
prayers is like a replacement for the temple, like service, like the service in the temple. You're not allowed to drink intoxicated.
Isn't
To
there?
pray intoxicated.
There's a Gemara also that you're never supposed to be intoxicated enough that you can't sober up within a certain period of time in case the redemption
comes.
Moshiach comes.
Yeah, especially a Kohen will have to go to, it's written about a Kohen will have to be serving in the temple.
I think it's like 23 minutes, or I forget what the 24
Then
minutes.
now, you're right, I don't remember exactly the time, maybe 23 minutes,
Someone
you're
for
right.
Cohen's join the fraternities.
Exactly.
Now, if he was drinking a lot, that is really drunk, he's not allowed to pray whatsoever. And if he prays, it's considered like worshipping idols. That's how bad it is. You come to the king drunk. Would you go to a king drunk? Never. What do you mean you're drunk? That before davening, we're not allowed to drink wine. The wine after davening. That's why in many synagogues they have like a little shots after the service, not before the service. Even there is some synagogues who have like something it's called a Kiddush club, and they drink wine before Musaf. I don't know. Now even more, Jewish law says on holidays we're supposed to rejoice ourselves, right? Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Are we supposed to rejoice ourselves? The children you buy candies, the women you buy jewelry. That's what Jewish law says. And the men should drink wine and eat meat. Everyone should rejoice and say what makes them happy. And you have to drink wine. And by every day you have to drink the service wine. Every day you have to drink a certain amount of wine, like I have a cup of wine to fulfill the mitzvah of drinking wine, to rejoicing yourself every day of the holiday. Even about this, it's written a person should be careful not to drink too much wine. He shouldn't lose it. Even on holidays, that there is a biblical mitzvah to rejoice yourself. What do you say?
On Pesach, we pray after while we drink.
Oh, that's good that you mentioned that. First of all, on Pesach we drink 4 cups of wine. We don't pray. Prayers means amida.
Prayer is...
Prayer, a service. In English, everything is called a service. There's a funeral service, and there's a chuppah service, and there is a Havdalah service, and everything is the same service. Real service is when you stand, the amida. That's davening means amida. Then if it's not amida, that's okay.
So you,
Even for
so
a
you,
lot,
so
because
you
you-
can say Shema after you have a few drinks.
Yes, I think so.
But I mean,
Yes, the
halal.
amida is not allowed. Yes, I
But
think so.
halal is a very elevated service. No?
Very elevated. Amida is the loss of a service. Anything else is not the loss of a service. You don't need a mechitza on the seder. You don't have to put a mechitza in the middle of the room because it's not a service. Anything that's not a service does not need a mechitza. It doesn't have the loss of a service. Then in a service you have to stand in a certain way, and you have to be dressed, and you have to be. That all of the laws that's about a service are not about anything. The God is. We tell the story of the Seder, but it does not have the laws of a service. And that's why you can drink. It's not a service. It's not standing in front of God like a Shmonesa. It's very good that you mentioned it. Go ahead.
Does it have to be wine? Could it be other alcohol? And
Could be other alcohol, yes.
I mean, in Purim?
And Purim.
Right, and Purim.
And Purim, not on Pesach.
And I couldn't help but think in Colorado, where marijuana is now legal, did the Jews in Colorado
Fulfill the mitzvah of marijuana. I don't think so. No. No.
Not unless you
Must be
get
alcohol.
cannabis from grapes.
It's an interesting question, but I don't think so. It has to be alcohol or wine makes you gladdens your heart. It's written wine gladdens your heart, not marijuana.
If I could ask one more question. I happened to be, it was probably 10 years ago. I was over at Cedar and Green, and it was Purim night, and there was an apparently observant Jewish man who was really, really, really falling down drunk at the gas station. And I couldn't help but think,
Is this
well,
the meaning?
is
That's what we meant?
well,
We'll get to there. We'll
Okay.
get there. Don't worry, we'll get there.
all right.
It shouldn't be.
You ever saw me? Hey,
Yeah, I wasn't driving.
You ever saw me drunk?
No.
Then so far, we see from all the Jewish holidays, from all Jewish sources, from everything, drunk is no. Comes Purim, everything is erased. Drink. have fun. What happened? What changed everything when it came to Purim? You know, there is even a law, it's called a Purim Rov. A rabbi, if he's drunk, if he's intoxicated, he's not allowed to issue a Jewish ruling because he might make a mistake. That on Purim, where the rabbi is also obligated to drink, that they are designate a rabbi, like a designated driver, a designated rabbi, he should answer questions while the rabbi is intoxicated. The answer is why it's so thing, because the old Megillah. Let's open the Megillah now, and we'll see what happened in the Megillah, and why is this all about wine? How the whole story of the Megillah started?
What party?
Page 14, right? He made a party, and in the party he gave wine as much as he want. Drinks were served. It's on page 14, number 7. You want to read?
Drinks were served in golden vessels of assorted design, and the royal wine was in abundance, as befitting the king. The drinking was by the law without force, for so had the king ordered all the stewards of his household to comply with each man's wish.
You drink whatever you want, as much as you want, how you want. It's all yours. It's all about drinking.
Is that the invention of the open bar?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing that's important was that those were vessels you were drinking from the temple.
That's a different story.
Sorry.
Okay, let's continue. Queen Vashti.
Queen Vashti, too, made a feast for the women in the royal palace of King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the king's heart was merry with wine,
When the king out was merry with wine, what he said,
he ordered Mehuman,
just go skip the names,
the 7 chamberlains who
to do
attended
what?
to bring Queen Vashti before the king, wearing the royal crown.
That the
short-
whole story started because the king was drunk. And he wanted to bring Vashti, right?
Mhm.
And Vashti didn't want to come. And the king got angry. From number 12.
But Queen Vashti refused to appear by the king's order brought by the chamberlains, and the king grew furious, and his wrath seethed within him. So the king conferred with the sages, those knowledgeable of the times.
Okay, that he was so angry that he went crazy. And they decided to kill the queen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then to remove the queen. In that time, you don't remove the queen. You don't. Then she retires. She goes to do something else. If you remove the queen, it means you remove her from the face of the earth, and that's what actually they did. The way that how was the way paved for Esther to Esther becoming a queen? Because of the party. It was because of wine. It was connected to wine. Then comes the story with Esther. Esther was found as a queen, right? And they came and they went and they get. Let's go to page 18. Number 17. Go ahead.
I'm looking for 17, okay.
No problem.
And the king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won his favor and kindness more than all the virgins. He placed the royal crown on her head and made her queen in Vashti's stead. Then the king made a grand feast for all his ministers and servants, the feast of Esther.
The feast of Esther. Again a feast. It started the feast of Vashti, basically. Vashti was killed because the king was drunk in Meshuggah. Paved the way for Esther. Esther came, was again a party. Now we'll go to page 20. Haman goes to the king and convinces the king to kill the Jews, right? And he's sitting down with the king on page 20, number 10. Go ahead.
The king removed his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, persecutor of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is yours to keep." and the nation is yours to do with as you please.
Okay, and he did whatever he pleased. Then go all the way to the bottom, number 15.
Couriers hurried out with the order of the king, and the law was proclaimed in Shushan, the capital. Then the king and Haman sat down to drink. The city of Shushan was in turmoil.
That the decree about the killing of the Jewish people happened, and the king and Haman sat down to drink. Again drinking, again wine. Now we'll go how the miracle took place. Mordechai is asking Esther, please go to the king. She doesn't want to go. Let's fast the whole thing. And then Mordechai tells her, if you don't go now, you lose the opportunity. Yo, 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 yo. Finally, she tells them, I'm going. Fine, relax. We are going. But I want you and the whole Jewish people to fast for 3 days and 3 nights in Shushan. And she's going. And number 22, page 22, in the beginning of the chapter, number 1. Mark, you want to read?
On the third day, Esther donned garments of royalty and stood in the inner courtyard of the palace, facing the palace. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the palace, facing the palace entrance. When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the courtyard, she found favor in his eyes. The king extended to Esther the golden scepter which was in his hand, and Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. The king said to her, "What is, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even if it be half the kingdom, it will be granted you."
Queen, what is your request? I'll give you half of my kingdom. What is she asking? I would ask right away, save the Jews. No, look what she's asking.
Esther said, "If it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to the feast that I have prepared for them."
Again a feast, again a party, again drinking. Okay, continue. Want to continue?
The king said, "Tell Haman to hurry and fulfill Esther's bidding." And the king and Haman came to feast that Esther had prepared. At the wine fest, the king said to Esther, "What is your plea? It will be granted to you. What is your request? Even if it will be half of the kingdom, it shall be fulfilled."
Okay, and the wine feast is asking here again. Okay, Esther, now we are drinking wine. Now what do you want? What is Esther saying?
So Esther replied and said, "My plea and my request, if I have found favor in the king's eyes, and if it please the king to grant my plea and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come to the feast, and I shall prepare for them, and tomorrow I shall fulfill the king's bidding."
Another feast. She's not telling. There is many. The Talmud is asking why she pushed it off for another feast. There is a million answers.
She gets a better deal.
Maybe tomorrow will be a Wall deal. You don't know these things. But the point is, she pushed it off from one party, from one drinking to the other drinking, right? And between happened a lot of things in between these two drinking. But she took a risk. Maybe the king will not ask her tomorrow, "What's a half of your kingdom? I'm ready to give you half of the kingdom." She said, "I want Haman to come and have another feast tomorrow." You know when was the first feast and the second feast? The first Seder and the second Seder. Haman was hanged on the second night of Pesach, the second Seder. That's when it happened. The feast was the second Seder. There's not some feast. That's why we drink so much wine on Pesach. No, it's written. I'm not joking. It's a real thing. Then, in the middle, Haman goes out from the building, from the palace. He sees Mordechai, gets angry. He's preparing a tree for him. Oy, 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 everything happens there. Then, on page 24, meanwhile, Mordechai had a ride in the city and the horse, and things turned around upside down completely. On page 25, number 1, chapter 7.
The king and Haman came to drink with Queen Esther.
Again, we promised another. She said, "Come tomorrow for another drinking." Right? Here it is. Go ahead.
And again, on the second day, the king said to Esther during the wine feast, "What is your plea, Queen Esther? It will be granted you. What is your request? Even if it be half the kingdom, it will be fulfilled." Queen Esther replied and said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, and if it please the king, Let my life be granted me by my plea, and the life of my people by my request. For my people and I have been sold to be annihilated, killed, and destroyed. Had we been sold as slaves and maidservants, I would have kept silent, but indeed, the persecutor is not bothered by the king's loss. King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther, "Who is this, and which one is he, that has the audacity to do such a thing? A man who is a persecutor and an enemy, this evil Haman," Esther replied. And Haman shuddered in the presence of the king and the queen. The king arose in wrath and left the wine feast.
He left
and
the wine
went
feast.
to the palace garden.
Yes.
While Haman stood up to beg Queen Esther for his life, for he realized that the king's hostility toward him was irrevocable. And the king returned from the palace garden to the wine feast chamber.
He came back to the wine feast. He left the wine feast. It's all about the wine feast. Go ahead.
And Haman had fallen upon the divan upon which Esther was reclining. The king said, "Does he even intend to have his way with the queen while I am in the palace?" As soon as these words left the king's mouth, the face of Haman was covered. Then Harvonah, one of the chamberlains that attended the king, said, "In addition, there is the gallows that Haman erected for Mordecai, who spoke for the king's good, standing in Haman's house 50 cubits high. Hang him upon it," said the king. And they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai, and the king's wrath abated.
Okay. That everything happened from wine. The whole miracle of the Jewish people in the story of the Megillah happened around a cup of wine. And therefore, when the Jews in number 28, when the news came to the Jews about the changing of the law, it's written right after we say LaYudim, that was glad and joy, and in number 28, number 17, and in every province and city, top of the page, top.
Oh, there it is. And in every province and city to which the king's edict and law reached, there was happiness and joy for the Jews, a celebration and a holiday. Many of the Gentiles converted
Celebration and holidays, happy and joy, mishteh, it's written in Hebrew. Mishteh means a party, a drinking. Mishteh means the word drinking. Then the rabbis say that the reason why that the mitzvah is to be drunk, because the holiday, the miracle came because of drinking. That it started because of drinking, and then it's always around drinking. And like we eat matzah and Pesach, the Ran said it, one of the commentators of the Talmud. Like we eat matzah and Pesach because the matzah reminds us where the miracle took place. We didn't have enough time to bake the matzah, so the wine reminds us about the mitzvah too. That's why we drink on Purim. Then
So are you
really,
gonna drink?
1 second. Then really, a whole year we're not allowed to drink. Judaism looks very bad on drinking and getting drunk. Drinking, saying al l'chaim, for sure it's okay. Getting drunk is unacceptable. But then what do you do? They have to get drunk. You have to drink a little more than you drink the rest of the year. A little more. What will do the person who is not allowed to drink? And there is a law that you can, if you drink a little bit, that will make you go to sleep, you fulfill the mitzvah. Because when you're sleeping, you also don't know who is better, or who is blessed and who is cursed. Mordechai or Haman, right? I'll tell you what the Rebbe used to do. It was in the Rebbe's Farbringen by the end of Purim, were a few thousand people, 5,000 people. The Rebbe used to look for a designated drinker. One guy, a volunteer, say, who is ready to volunteer? And right away used to look at the yeshiva student and says, and I'm not talking about the young people. Used to look for a volunteer, that this volunteer should get drunk, and will do it for the whole community.
He had a lot of volunteers, right?
But he wanted only one, he didn't need many. And everybody said a little more l'chaim, but it wasn't, because when the Rebbe was making a Farbringen, the Rebbe used to give lectures, that if you get drunk, you miss the whole thing. You don't know, you cannot listen. And only fools want to get drunk when there is a Farbringen of the Rebbe. And nobody wanted to do it. Therefore, he needed to find a volunteer who is ready to give up on hearing what's going on. And later, like you said, laying down one guy. But in the whole community, one older man who is 50 or 60 gets drunk, that's okay. He has to fulfill the mitzvah. Then Purim is different from the rest of the year. We have to go out of our barriers. We have to forget of ourselves. You know what is getting drunk? Forgetting of yourself. Because the miracle of Purim came from such a place that it was above logic, above everything. And to really connect to God, you have to connect on a higher level on Purim. On a deeper level. That's why it's like this.
Is that true that when Mashiach comes, it's going to be only one holiday celebrated and it's going to be Purim?
Yeah, it's a general statement, but there is truth to it, yes. Purim will be celebrated more than any other holiday. Now there is another custom about Purim, besides drinking.
One drinking question. Is it appropriate for women to get drunk?
That's a good question. And the answer is no. In general, no. Women also should say a little bit of al-chaim, drink a little bit, but not in a way to get drunk. No, absolutely, it's against the laws of modesty. It's no, in Jewish law, it's written about, not a Purim, in general, it's written that it's not a good thing for women to drink altogether. For sure not, because it's even a man is not, but yeah, this question is being asked, that women are obligated to get drunk on Purim. The answer is they can drink a little bit. They have to drink a little bit. Also, like men have to drink more than usual, women should drink a little bit and they drink more than usual, but not in a way to get it out of control. But even, as I told you, even men should not go crazy. What is another custom that we do on Purim?
Costumes.
Customs, beautiful. Where is this coming?
Carnival.
Huh?
Carnival.
Where is the customs came on Purim? We put up what is called?
Mask.
The masks, right? Everybody loves this custom.
The theory of hidden identity, everything's hidden in the story.
Oh.
Yeah. Hashem's not mentioned.
Who was the
We
first? Who in the Megillah had a hidden identity?
Esther?
Esther.
Right.
Look at the strange thing. Mordechai, that he was called Ish Yehudi. Everybody in Ishusha knew that Mordechai is the Jew, right? Mordechai is the Jew. He is not ready to bow down to Haman. He put in jeopardy the whole Jewish people, right? When it comes to Esther going to the king, he tells her, I don't want you to tell her that you're Jewish. One of the explanations, he knew that if he'll know that the Jewish, it will be very hard for her to observe Jewish law. In this way, she said she's a vegetarian. She doesn't admit she's a vegetarian. Oh, vegetarian, everybody respects you. Keep kosher, they'll throw you out of the house. But you're vegetarian, oh, that's holy, that's good. Then she said she had, on Shabbos, she didn't work. But if they would know that she's resting on Shabbos, that would be unacceptable. But in this way, she didn't do any. Anyway, a queen can rest a whole week, not only on Shabbos. That was easier for her. The Medrash says that she had 7 maidservants, and she named them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. And every day she used another maidservant. And this way she should not lose when Shabbos is. In the palace, how is she going to know when Shabbos is? People go to shul or what? The whole concept of Shabbos of a day of rest didn't exist at that time. Then because Esther, how really Esther covered up her identity? How she was able to convince the king? She was taken from Mordechai's house, right? She was taken from the Jewish ghetto. What do you mean she says she's not Jewish? What kind of a story is this? Well,
He had upped it, right?
then, first of all, must be that Esther didn't look Jewish. Number one. Number two, Esther, that's clear, Mordechai adopted Esther. She told him, yeah, he adopted me, but he found me on the street. I'm not from the family. I'm not a Jewish child. I was adopted from nowhere. I don't know where I am. That's how she told him that she's not Jewish. She covered up her Jewish identity, and therefore, one of the reasons why the king got so angry with Haman, he says, this guy is killing all my wives. He was the one who gave advice to kill Vashti. Now he has a whole agenda to kill the Jews. He killed Esther. That's one reason why we are getting dressed up on Purim. There is another reason. like you mentioned, the name of God is not mentioned in the Megillah. Unbelievable. A book from the Bible with the name of God not mentioned once. Not mentioned that the Jews prayed to God to save them. Not mentioned that the Jews thanked God after they were saved. Nothing. One of the explanations is because the rabbis, when they wrote the Megillah, they were afraid that this would be translated to Persian, to other languages. And instead of the name of God, they will put the name of their God. That they rather not have the name of God. But what's the real reason? The real reason because God was covered up. What means God was covered up? The story of the Megillah, as we said many times, is over 10 years. And things just happened. One thing happened, another thing happened. Then if you want, just coincidence. It worked out. You were lucky. Esther became the queen. It just worked out. You put all things together. Then God is covered in the Megillah. Then the job of the Jew on Purim is to uncover the mask, to find what's underneath the mask. And in life, it's exile. In exile, our job is to uncover the truth. And it's a very strange thing that the name of God is not mentioned in the Megillah, if you think about it. But Judaism says, the Talmud says, that every time it's written Amelech, the king, right? King. It means also of the king of all kings. When the Megillah says, and that night the king couldn't sleep, that the Medrash says, the king of all kings couldn't sleep. Not only the king couldn't sleep. Then we have God, but in a covered up place. But how we came up with this custom? All the four mitzvahs, shalach mones, and giving gift, and having the meal, and reading all of this is written in the Megillah, right? Even getting drunk, it's written in the Talmud 2,000 years ago. When it started the custom of getting dressed up on Purim?
Middle Ages, I'm assuming.
Yes, 700 years ago. In Germany, the Jews in Germany started the customs. And when you read the writings it came from Germany to France, from France it spread to Italy. And when you read in the writings of the rabbis of their time, they don't like it. They said, no, it's a bad custom, it's not so modest, it's not so nice, it's not so this.
Well, the Catholics were doing the same thing with Mardi Gras. I don't know when they started that, but...
I don't know.
That came from this.
They came from the Jews, if anything.
It's the same
It's
time of
also
year.
in spring, yeah.
Yeah?
But I don't know, traditionally, I would assume that the Jews may have been copying some of the Gentile customs at this point.
I don't think it's written anywhere in the books that if this would be a Gentile custom, it would be cut out. Because Jews are very sensitive, the rabbis, especially in that times, are very sensitive of not copying non-Jewish customs, non-Jewish traditions, to hold on to our own traditions. And there is very strong statements everywhere in Judaism, not copy anybody else. That if this would be a non-Jewish tradition, could be right, could be. But usually Jews are sensitive and they say, well, I don't think it would spread so fast. But even though the rabbis didn't like it, it spread all over and became a part of the Jewish tradition. It's Ashkenazi custom. And then now it became a Sephardi custom. Everybody, you cannot find one community on earth who doesn't dress up on Purim. Everybody dresses up on Purim. And there is another custom that we do on Purim.
We fast before.
The Gragers.
Gragers.
Right? The Gragers is also not written in the Megillah. It's not written. It's also a custom that started 700 years ago, around the same time, also in Germany, to Grager and to erase the name of Haman. Even it makes many people nervous, I know, who don't like it, because, and while we are talking about customs that started in Germany, started later in Jewish history, what's another custom? Pesach is coming up. There is a very famous custom, that's really a custom. The cup of Elijah. Putting on the table. It's not written in Jew. It's not in the Talmud. It's not as a cup of Elijah.
Like 1700, something like that.
No, before that. It started also like 700 years ago, something like this, the same time, to strengthen the belief in the coming of Moshiach. And it started as an Ashkenazi custom. Now there is no Jew who doesn't have a cup of Elijah on his table. Some people want to say it's a fifth cup, but it's a separate custom to have a cup of Elijah. Now, people can say just a custom. In Jewish law, a custom is a very strong thing. If the whole community took upon themselves a custom, I cannot say it's not my problem. It becomes a law and everybody has to follow it. That next time when somebody asks you, where is it written? You know where it's written? It's engraved on the soul and the heart of the Jewish people. And if Jews for generations do it, it's a part of Jewish tradition and has the power of the will of God, because God said, when Jewish law says, when Jewish people accept a tradition, a custom, something that adds to Judaism, not distract from Judaism, not that takes away from Jewish law, not that's against Jewish law, an addition that inspires more Jews to serve God, it's a part of Jewish tradition, and it's a part of, and we have to follow it.
Tevye said it. What more do you need?
Traditions, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
May I ask a question?
L'chaim.
Please.